Hello everyone and welcome to my review for Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 215. As always, if you haven't already, definitely be sure to like and subscribe. I'd like to try and hit at least 100 likes on this week's review. Now then, let's get right into the chapter. So, this seems to be the end of the little Sukuna outbreak thing. And it hasn't exactly ended in a good way. There were worse ways it could have ended, but he's gone now. He's left. He's departed with Uraume. So I guess that means it's over for now because, Sukuna's gotta go home, unwind, take a bath, and then, do whatever he's gonna do after that. We see that Uraume is traveling with Kenjaku, and they seem to be inside this giant floating curse spirit thing. We don't see Kenjaku show up within the colony. Also, I'm fairly confident that the way Uraume has been able to get in and the way they're going to get out is just because Kenjaku is the barrier person. So, if you want anyone who can get in and out of the Culling Game colonies, it would be Kenjaku. But he doesn't enter the colony himself. It is of note, this is post-Tengen fight, Kenjaku. We do not see or have any reference to what he did with Tengen. So, presumably that's something we're going to find out a bit later. Now, fortunately, for Yuji, some things go kind of well for him in this chapter. And by well, I mean they stop him from dying. First things first. Sukuna is experiencing fluctuations in his cursed energy. Megumi is trying to exert some control over him. He hasn't succeeded in fully suppressing him, but he's able to mess with his cursed energy output. And Sukuna says at the worst of the fluctuations, he can only use 10% of his usual maximum. Now, apparently, a lot of people have terrible reading comprehension because they don't know what the fuck the word fluctuation means. He says that it goes down whenever he's trying to attack one of Megumi's friends, but that doesn't mean that it always drops to 10%. That just means at the absolute worst, he's only working on like a finger and a half's worth of power. So that's gonna be the usual situation where, Yuji can just deck him without any kind of assistance. Of course, just because he can't really use a ton of his cursed energy, doesn't mean Sukuna can't use his physical abilities to just beat Yuji into a bloody stain. Yeah, Yuji's one of the best physical fighters in the series, but so is Sukuna. And I would probably put him a bit above Yuji. Someone I wouldn't put him considerably above is Maki, who shows up. We were wondering, when is Maki gonna show up to help out? Because either gonna be her or Takaba. And Takaba needs to be able to find some humor in the situation, and given how bad things are, that is somewhat unlikely. So she shows up. She asks Yuji, hey, can you bring me up to speed right now? And Yuji just says, kill him. He's not gonna die. So then just immediately Maki just rushes in and goes to attack Sukuna. So, yeah, I like the, I don't want to go over this too much, because, it's kind of obvious. Oh my god, you had character consistency in your story? That's crazy. I like the way that Maki's demeanor has sort of worked out ever since Sakurajima, where she doesn't really seem to get flustered by anything. She doesn't get overwhelmed. She doesn't really get super confused by situations. She doesn't worry about it. It's just, can you tell me what's happening? Okay. Actually, no. Doesn't even really say okay. Just gets the rundown and it's just immediately goes into action. I like it. So, Maki, is really the only person here who can fully physically contend with Sukuna right now. So, she starts beating him around a little bit, and then Yuji goes in for an assist. they start tossing him around. Now, Maki is not using the Soul Liberation Blade here, and it's not entirely clear why. I think the reason is, despite what Yuji says, Maki probably doesn't want to cause permanent damage to Megumi. Because her question is, will wounds from the Soul Liberation Blade be affected by Reverse Curse technique? Maybe? Mahito never really... He didn't exactly heal his soul when he took damage from Yuji. He would just try to, like, warp the shape of his soul to account for the damage. He would have to, like, bend it and stretch it out to account for damage, and then it would just have to kind of, like, passively heal over time, I suppose. But also, Mahito was a fully fledged cursed spirit. Sukuna is not. You know, in his current state, within Megumi's body, much like when he was hosted within Yuji, he is a sorcerer. He's more akin to what Chozo is than anything else, so he's kind of like an in-between thing, but he's more human than curse. So, you know, I just imagine Maki doesn't really want to cause potentially lethal or unfixable damage to Megumi. I don't think unfixable is a word. You know what I mean. Lasting damage to Megumi. So I imagine that's why she's just sticking to hand-to-hand attacks. But anyway, like any good Jujutsu Kaisen fight, we get a pretty solid 2v1 here, just between pure physical combatants at the moment. I mean, Sukuna's not a pure physical combatant, but since his cursed energy's fluctuating, he doesn't really have any choice. It's really cool when Maki says, hey, we're gonna speed things up. Can you keep up? And Yuji's just like, yes. I'm not so sure he really can, but, you know. I mean, Maki says we're gonna speed things up. She doesn't say, I'm gonna go as fast as I can now. Can you keep up? But, you know, if there were any two characters I would have to give top physical stats to right now, it would be Yuji and Maki. And then, you know, Sukuna, somewhere around there. It's still hard to say. No, I would say in terms of sheer physicals, Sukuna's probably still at the top. But, like, Maki can fight him. In a pure physical battle, Maki can contend with Sukuna. Just like Toji would be able to, because they are the physical combatants. But Sukuna, as we can see, is still managing to hold his own here. So I would say it's still pretty safe to say that he is top dog. Now, while he can't attack Yuji and Maki directly without experiencing the fluctuations, he can do a bit of a loophole. It seems like Megumi's not necessarily consciously suppressing Sukuna. It seems almost more like it's a subconscious thing. It's probably kind of hard to imagine, given that it's, you know, another entity within his body controlling him. So he's probably, like, mentally locked away behind walls or seeing everything from, like, a mile away. But when Sukuna decides to, you know, just use his curse technique on the environment or something, not attack Megumi's friends directly, oh, well then there's no problems. So he uses a variation of cleave called Spider's Thread, which just pretty much obliterates the ground. And he uses the interruption of that to fucking sock Maki in the face. Just a full-blown right hook to the face. She spits out a little blood, but she's totally fine from, like, a serious punch from Sukuna. And he's like, God damn, that's not fucking bad. That's not bad at all. That's pretty good. So they're leaping around along the rubble. They get to, like, a highway or something. And then that's when Uraume appears and uses maximum output to cast Dead Calm, which in the Viz translation was called Frost Calm. I don't know which one is more accurate, but I think, I mean, they both sound good, but I think Dead Calm is better because Dead Calm is like an actual phrase It's dead calm. That kind of thing. It reminds me of one time with, like, the Black Clover translations where Viz changed sudden death to death thrust. Like, yeah, I guess that's what it literally is, I suppose. It is literally a death thrust, but shit, man. Sudden death is like an actual phrase. It sounds cooler. This one is not like a super major change, but I like it. And of course, this true double-page spread looks quite nice. Now, Uraume is quite something. My general take has been that Uraume is seemingly somewhat relative to Chozo. We didn't really have any feats for them beyond their short spat with Chozo and then them freezing Yuji, Kusakabe, Panda, and Kamo in place, which is impressive, but I don't think it's the most impressive thing ever. I would assume Chozo could beat most of those guys. In fact, given the state that Yuji was in there, I would probably go so far as to state that Chozo would have likely been able to beat all 4 of those. Yeah, Uraume didn't even just confine them. Uraume was going to kill those 4. And then Yuki showed up to save them. But Uraume here basically summons a glacier atop a few buildings, but manages to, at least for now, at least for a little bit, confine Maki with their maximum output. And that's a very impressive feat to accomplish. For those that undersell Toji, or not Toji, those that undersell Maki, imagine someone doing that to Toji. It'd be really impressive. And I know they're going to be like, no, it's not the same. Listen, if Gege says, stat-wise, they're exactly the same. I'm just saying. So, Uraume stocks go up a bit. The thing is with Uraume, we haven't really seen them have a serious fight thus far. Now, this is their maximum output. So, this is the full capabilities of Dead Calm. But we haven't seen them do much else. It's not clear how much they have in the tank, what exactly their full arsenal of abilities are. We know they have ice powers, but like all the different moves that they have. Do they have a domain expansion? I would assume Uraume has a domain expansion. I feel like that's a safe assumption that they have one. How high up do they go? I don't know. I would maybe put them up with, somewhere around the disaster spirits, I'm thinking. Why didn't I always have them there? They should be at least around the disaster spirits. Probably higher. The way that they're being set up now here is they are one of the final 3 villains, I guess. They are the subservient villain. You have Kenjaku, the mastermind. You have Sukuna, the wild card. And then you have Uraume, who is the subordinate, I guess. But they're only subordinate to Sukuna. What is their role going to be? I imagine they're going to provide a cool fight for maybe some of the weaker cast members. Because, yes, Uraume seems to be very strong, but obviously, Sukuna and Kenjaku are way stronger than them. So I'm thinking if we're going to have a role in these final battles for some of the well, actually, no, we may have to have Yuji fight them or something. The ones who aren't top tier, those people, that will probably be who Uraume is there to fight. Should be pretty good, because, JJK group fights, always delicious. So they have a little conversation here. We see Sukuna's aware of the bath. We don't know exactly what it is. He says this body's still incomplete. Get the bath ready. So maybe it's going to be him transforming Megumi into something similar to his original form. Or just straight up restoring his original form and maybe getting the last of the fingers. I've been under the assumption that Kenjaku probably knows where the other fingers are or has the other fingers. So, he can just eat those, get up to full power, and then maybe restore his original body. So then we have the true returned King of Curses, but honestly, more powerful than ever. Sukuna, if he gets all of his power back, in the present, he should be stronger than he ever was previously because he has 10 shadows. So, you know, man just keeps going up. Big ups. I like the little detail here when Sukuna compliments Uraume for being meticulous. There's just a little note saying they're very happy. Uraume is generally not very expressive, so it's just kind of funny to see that little that little notation there specifying, hey, just so you know, they're very happy about that. It's kind of a, dare I say, kinda cute. Anyway, Yuji breaks out because Uraume focused more of their power on confining Maki and less on Yuji because, as we see here, and as we already know, they don't take Yuji seriously. They think he's a joke. And that's going to be a mistake. All he does is sit up here and laugh and call Yuji pathetic. Well, guess what? As pathetic as he may be, you didn't kill him. And like any shonen protagonist, he's going to get stronger. Now, due to the way JJK works, I don't think Yuji's going to become stronger than Sukuna and beat him. What I imagine is going to happen is Yuji's going to get stronger, and he's going to work together with other people to beat him. Because a sort of general theme with JJK that I like, even if it's not really like a stated one, but it seems to be fairly consistent in terms of the fights, is you don't need to be stronger than the villain in order to defeat them. You have to be kind of strong, but what really matters is who you have as your allies, who you surround yourself with, who you would call friends. Those are the people you rely upon, and together, you're able to beat them. It's kind of a power of friendship thing, but isn't like, we don't say, it's because the spirits of my friends upon my back will give me the power to defeat you. It's no. The connections that you make with other people, those can be used to work together and overcome things that you wouldn't have been able to overcome by yourself. That I like. So I imagine we're going to have Yuji and some other people. I don't know who. Maybe if Nobara comes back, as some people have pointed out, Resonance would maybe be able to hurt Sukuna without hurting Megumi because the Resonance can affect the soul. But it would have to affect, maybe a part of Sukuna that only has his soul in it. Like, I don't know, his fingers or something. That could play a part in it, I suppose. Again, I've generally remained under the impression that Nobara is dead, but this will be the only situation in which I'm okay with her coming back. If it's for the purpose of saving Yuji as a person. Not saving him from a foe in some dangerous fight, but saving him mentally and emotionally from the abyss of despair that he's falling into. Now, the last interesting thing is the statements from Sukuna and Uraume as they fly off on Nue about how Yuji is like some guy from Harima, which in the modern day is a province called Hyogo, and it is the hometown of Onmyoji, who are ancient Japanese exorcists. And Sukuna's like, man, he looks just like this guy. That's crazy. Oh, that's so funny. So, I don't know about you folks. Actually, I'm pretty sure this is going to be most of your takeaways from this. But, Yuji's descended from someone who was presumably a maybe decently powerful sorcerer in the Heian era. But descended from someone who encountered Sukuna in the past. And that would explain why Yuji is special. Why Kenjaku chose either Yuji's mom to be the host or Yuji's dad. I imagine both of them were very intentional choices. Selective breeding. You put the two of them together to get the best possible offspring. And, you know, that was Yuji here. You get a sorcerer who had an anti-gravity technique, which seems to be pretty strong. We don't really know anything about Kaori's ancestry, or really anything other than their name and technique. And then you have Yuji's dad, whose name is escaping me right now. But, looks more like Yuji. So I'm going to assume, since Yuji's apparent ancestor looked like him a lot, I'm going to assume that they are Yuji's ancestor on his dad's side, just because he looks way more like him than his mom. But I'm thinking, probably, maybe, sometime in the near future, or, you know, it's just set up for this later, we are going to be getting that Heian flashback that we've been wondering about forever. But it's going to be for the purpose of showing whoever this exorcist guy is that's Yuji's ancestor. I don't know how strong they may have been. Maybe they were kind of strong. But with the way Sukuna talks about them here, they probably weren't anything too special. Maybe they are by modern standards, but not in Heian-era standards, because Sukuna is still capable of acknowledging when a person is strong, but if he's like, oh, that dude was a loser, yeah. But there must be something special about that guy. That must have been why Kenjaku chose his bloodline to create this potential vessel for Sukuna. And, you know, it's still not really clear what exactly Kenjaku wanted with Sukuna. Maybe Kenjaku just wanted Sukuna to be able to show up again in the future. Maybe he wanted to help Sukuna, or maybe he wanted someone to beat Sukuna. We don't know. He probably just wanted someone to fight Sukuna. He just wanted Sukuna to be around, with the way Kenjaku is. But maybe when the case came for that, was just like, I do wonder. But yeah, that guy is probably going to have some special trait, whether it be an actual physical trait or just something about his personality that caught Kenjaku's eye and made them think, yes, I should have my insides rearranged by that person's descendant 1,000 years from now. How curious. And that's the end of the chapter. That's a bit of a weird note to end off on there. What do I predict for the next chapter? Either we're going to see Sukuna going off to the bath, or we're going to see Yuji and Maki reuniting with maybe some other people if they can. We don't know if Angel's dead or not. I mean, it was played up like they died, but Hana may be dead. I wouldn't be shocked if Hana dying allowed the symbiotic spirit within her to just sort of take over the body. So Hana may be dead, but now her body's just being controlled by Angel like the other reincarnated sorcerers. I would not be surprised if that was the case, because we need a way to get people out of the colony. And also, we still need a way to free Gojo. We need to get him out. And without Angel, that may be impossible unless we have, like, the little fragment of the inverted Spear of Heaven that was clearly missing. So yeah. Good chapter. Interested in seeing what we get next week. But with that, that's all I've got for this week's review. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Jujutsu Kaisen chapter reactions and reviews every week that we get a new chapter. If you enjoy discussing Jujutsu Kaisen with other people, or just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to that down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.